Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping back into the science behind habits. How they form, how we make changes stick.
Yeah, lasting change. We're looking specifically at atomic habits,
Mhm.
the conclusion, and the appendix material.
Right. And our mission basically is to pull out the key stuff on how tiny actions, those really small things, can lead to big results.
And importantly, how to build systems so those good habits actually last,
Mhm.
you know, without getting lost in all the heavy science.
Exactly. So let's kick off with maybe a slightly philosophical idea, the Sorites paradox.
The old Greek puzzle.
Yeah, it's that one coin thing. Like if you have 10 coins, you're not rich, right?
Probably not.
But add one coin, still not rich, add another, keep going. When exactly does adding just one more coin make you rich? It's kind of impossible to say.
Right. And that connects directly to these atomic habits, doesn't it?
It really does, because one tiny habit change, meditating for like 1 minute or reading a single page, feels like nothing on its own.
Yeah, it feels insignificant. It doesn't feel like it's changing your life right then and there.
So how do you stay motivated? That's the tricky part. When the first steps feel so small, you don't see the payoff immediately.
That's the big question, yeah.
Uh,
Because it's like those coins,
yeah.
eventually they do add up.
Exactly. They build on each other, these small atomic habits. It's not about one giant leap.
It's the accumulation,
Mm.
these tiny fundamental bits of behavior stacking up.
Which leads us to something really powerful, compounding.
Compounding. It's not linear, is it?
Ah.
We tend to think, oh, I get a little better each day. It just adds up.
Right, but habits work more like compound interest, those little 1% improvements. They don't just add, they multiply exponentially.
It's actually kind of mind-blowing when you see the numbers. Like Jason Shen pointed out, that 1% daily improvement,
Yeah.
it doesn't just make you, what, 3.65 times better in a year?
No, it's way more. Because of the compounding, you're like 37 times better?
37 times.
Yeah.
It really shows the hidden power in those tiny habits.
Can you give a quick example? Like, how does that play out practically?
Okay, think about learning a language. Maybe you study just 15 minutes a day.
Okay. Seems small.
Right. Feels like a drop in the bucket at first.
Mm-hmm.
You might not see huge progress for weeks,
Mm-hmm.
but keep doing it for a year
Mm.
consistently. Those 15 minutes compound. You build vocabulary, understand grammar way more than if you just did like occasional long cram sessions.
That makes total sense. But we should also say this compounding thing,
Yeah.
it cuts both ways, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Good habits compound positively, sure. They automate good stuff, free up your brain.
But the bad ones.
Compound too. They dig those negative grooves deeper, often without you even realizing it.
Right. So it's not just about adding small good things. It's about like tilting the whole system in your favor.
Exactly. Making sure your automatic patterns are actually helping you long term.
And that brings us back to the foundations, the 4 laws of behavior change from the book. Can you remind us what those are?
Sure. They're the framework, really, for building good habits and breaking bad ones.
Okay.
First, for good habits, make it obvious. For bad ones, the opposite. Make it invisible.
Got it. Obvious versus invisible.
Second, make it attractive for the good habit
Mm-hmm.
and make it unattractive for the bad one.
Attractive versus unattractive. Makes sense.
Third, make it easy. Make the good habit super simple to do. And for the bad habit, make it hard.
Mhm.
Increase the friction.
Easy versus hard. Okay.
And finally, make it satisfying. The good habit needs a payoff. And the bad one, make it unsatisfying.
Right. Obvious, attractive, easy, satisfying. For the good stuff.
And the inverse for the bad stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the book really stresses, lasting change isn't about hitting some finish line.
It's not a goal you reach and then you're done.
No, it's about constantly applying these laws, refining your systems. If you're stuck, the book says it's not you that's broken.
It's the system.
Yeah, it's your system that needs tweaking. The laws are the tools to build better ones.
So success is really this ongoing process, always looking for that next little improvement, that next 1%.
Exactly. It's a continuous loop. No finish line, just keep refining.
And it's amazing what happens when you just don't stop, when you stick with those small things.
Totally. The book gives examples across, like, everything. Building a business, getting fit, learning stuff, finances, even relationships.
It all comes down to that consistency with the small stuff.
It's the compounding effect over the long haul. That's where the remarkable results come from.
Okay, so the appendix digs into some little lessons from that basic habit loop, right? The cue, craving, response, reward thing.
Yeah, and these offer some really cool insights into, like, the psychology behind it all, why we do what we do.
Okay, what's one that stands out?
Well, this idea that awareness comes before desire. A craving doesn't just appear out of thin air.
Right.
It happens when your brain attaches meaning to a cue. You notice something, then you feel something, then you crave.
So what does that mean for, like, breaking a bad habit?
It means maybe the first step isn't fighting the craving itself, but becoming aware of the cues that trigger it.
Ah, so identify the triggers first, maybe change your environment.
Exactly. Another interesting one. Happiness is basically the absence of desire.
Huh. Explain that.
Well, when you see a cue, but you don't feel any urge to change your state or act on it,
Hmm.
that's contentment, right?
Okay, yeah.
It's not about actively chasing pleasure, but just not wanting anything different in that moment. It's fleeting, though. New desires always pop up.
Right, like that saying, happiness is the gap between fulfilling one desire and the next one starting.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And suffering is often that gap between wanting something badly and getting it.
That's deep. It shifts the focus, doesn't it? Away from constantly chasing things.
It can. And related to that, often it's the idea of pleasure we chase.
The anticipation.
Yeah. We're motivated by the mental picture of how good something will feel, maybe even more than the actual feeling later. Satisfaction often only comes after the action.
So the buildup is sometimes stronger than the reward itself.
Seems like it. Which links to another point. Peace comes from observing without needing to fix.
Okay.
The first step is noticing a cue. If you can just notice it without immediately feeling like you have to do something about it, that's a kind of peace.
Ah, so observing without that instant jump to problem-solving mode.
Right. Craving is often about wanting to fix or change your current reality.
That's interesting. Cultivating non-judgmental awareness. What else?
The power of a strong why. Nietzsche's quote, "He who has a why can bear almost anyhow."
If your motivation is strong enough.
Exactly. If the desire, the why, is compelling, you'll push through difficulties. A strong craving overcomes friction.
That definitely highlights connecting habits to deeper values.
Absolutely. And here's one that might be surprising. Curiosity can be more important than intelligence.
Really? How so?
Well, motivation, that genuine curiosity, that's often what drives action and experimentation. Just being smart doesn't guarantee you'll do anything without that drive. It's the desire to explore, not just raw IQ, that gets you started and keeps you going. Like Naval Ravikant said, you got to cultivate the desire first.
So drive beats smarts for habit building. Interesting.
Seems like it. And emotions are huge, too. Emotions drive behavior.
Even when we think we're being logical.
Yeah. The book argues every decision has an emotional element. Our logical reasons often feel compelling because of underlying emotions. Feeling comes first.
That fits with how we often make gut decisions and then justify them later.
Precisely. Rationality often follows emotion. Feeling is like system 1, thinking fast, intuitive. Rational analysis, system 2, is slower and comes after.
So appealing to emotions is often more effective than just logic.
Often, yes. And our responses are usually based on what we find attractive, not just pure logic. Two people get the same facts, react totally differently based on their emotional filters.
So understanding what makes a habit emotionally appealing to you is key.
Definitely. And maybe counterintuitively, suffering often drives progress.
How does that work?
That dissatisfaction with where you are, that desire for change, that is a form of suffering, but it's also the fuel for improvement. It pushes us to grow.
So discomfort can be a catalyst.
It can be. And ultimately, your actions show what you truly want.
Oof, yeah.
If you say something's a priority, but your actions don't match, well, your actions are telling the real story. It takes honesty to see that.
That's a tough mirror to hold up sometimes.
It is. And remember, reward follows sacrifice. You usually have to put in the effort, expend the energy before you get the payoff.
Right. Delayed gratification, it's tough but necessary.
Definitely. And relying only on self-control, that's hard because resisting temptation is often unsatisfying. Just fighting a craving doesn't make it go away. Real change often means finding a healthier way to satisfy the underlying need or making the bad habit less appealing.
So willpower alone isn't a sustainable strategy.
Usually not. And expectations shape satisfaction hugely. The gap between what you crave and what you get determines how you feel. Getting more than expected feels great. Less, disappointment.
Like Seneca said, poverty isn't having too little, it's wanting more.
Exactly. It's often our escalating wants that keep us dissatisfied.
Which connects to the idea that happiness is relative.
Right. The author uses his email list growth as an example. What felt amazing early on just becomes normal later. The pleasure fades even as the numbers grow.
The hedonic treadmill. We adapt.
We do. And the pain of failure, it's tied to expectations. The higher your hopes, the more it hurts if you fall short.
So lowering expectations can be a defense mechanism.
Sometimes, yeah. And feelings matter both before and after. Craving motivates, reward reinforces.
Desire initiates, pleasure sustains.
You got it. Need both the wanting and the liking for the loop to stick.
So you need that initial push, but also the satisfying feeling afterwards.
Exactly. And one last interesting shift. Hope tends to decline with experience.
Replaced by acceptance.
Yeah. You start something new. Hope is high, based on potential. As you gain experience, expectations get grounded in reality.
Which explains why get-rich-quick things are so tempting.
Probably. They tap into that initial unbounded hope before experience brings things down to earth, like Aristotle said about youth being full of hope.
Wow, that's a really powerful set of insights into why we do what we do. And the book shows how these apply in specific areas too, right? Like business, parenting.
Yes, there are bonus chapters on that. The core principles seem pretty universal, even if the application looks different.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. Key takeaways. Remember that Soreid's paradox. Small things, repeated, compound into huge changes.
Build systems. Don't just chase goals. Use the 4 laws.
Right. Obvious, attractive, easy, satisfying. And remember, it's a continuous process, not a finish line.
And those little lessons show us the why behind our habits, cravings, emotions, expectations.
Understanding those helps us work with our nature, not against it.
And the bottom line is, those tiny changes, consistently applied, they have incredible transformative power over time, more than you probably realize right now.
So here's something to think about. If one coin, added over and over, can theoretically build a fortune, what transformations could committing to tiny positive actions bring to your life? What's just one small habit, one tiny step you could start today?
Something to ponder.
Definitely. That's it for this deep dive. Until next time.